Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorecom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out big news. And today we're talking about big news out of HPQ Silicon. And for those of you new to the story to understand this, here's what you have to know. Silicon is the second most abundant element on the planet. A lot of people know that. But a lot of people don't know that silicon metal manufacturing is currently the largest emitter of CO2 among metals and non-ferrous metals on a per ton basis. HPQ Silicon is a cutting-edge producer of high value-added silicon products that are sought after by the battery and electric vehicle manufacturers, amongst many other industries. And they're doing it through an innovative process that does it all in one step of transforming quartz and high purity silicon. And what does that do? It creates silicon at reduced high purity silicon at reduced costs, energy uses, and carbon footprint. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Here's the headline. I think it's a game changer. HPQ's PUREVAP QRR will usher in zero CO2 emission silicon metal manufacturing. Bernard, welcome back, my friend. This is big news.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to start off with the quote. By modernizing the production of high purity silicon, our QRR process has the potential to transform a century-old industrial process known for its significant CO2 emissions and you're transforming it into a carbon credit generating solution. That's a bold, game-changing statement, especially when you talk about a 100-year-old manufacturing process and status quo producers. How big is this statement to make? How strong of a signal are you sending to the world?
Well, I'm sending a strong statement that we are going to do that we are doing that. We're in the process of doing it. We're doing the validation, and we stand by that statement. Big picture item, we've been saying since the beginning, I think it's in many of our presentations, that we're going to do a green, a greener process, an environmentally more friendly process, but we never bothered to explain how we're going to do it. And this is what we're doing it now, and why we know we're going to be doing it.
This seems like a legit. If I'm a traditional status quo silicon metal manufacturer, this seems like a legitimate threat to silicon metal manufacturers. Almost seems like you're Appleizing the industry. You know how Apple completely turned the industry for mobile on its head. Are we? Is that moment right here? Is that? Am I overstating it?
No, it is that type of statement. If you read more and more, like I do, all the research from the big company, okay, the carbon footprint related to manufacturing silicon is a big issue and a big headache for manufacture. Okay, I'll give just an example of how silly it's gone to, because Europe imposes carbon taxes on the material you import into Europe. So silicon is used in battery material. Now, some battery material manufacturers in China, to meet the CO2 emission standard, have to go get their lowest silicon material from Europe, because right now it was basically the only way people could play around the silicon, the CO2, the carbon footprint was two ways. One of them is using hydroelectricity, and second one is using organic carbon. Anyway, I won't get into too much detail, but what I was trying to say is that is becoming such an important issue that Chinese producer of battery material go and get their silicon in Europe, import it to China to transform into silicon anode materials for batteries, and then re-export it back to Europe so that they can have the low carbon footprint implant, or the relatively low carbon footprint situation. So yes, it is a massive thing.
But even then, you're saying, even with that workaround, you said here, traditional silicon metal manufacture process will never allow them produce zero CO2 emission silicon metal. Even with that,
no, it's so weird the way they're doing it, because everything is called around organic carbon. Okay, so what that's going to do is probably going to increase the cost of organic carbon so high that they're going to have to use some fossil-based carbon into it. So there's really no way. They're playing around the edges. They're trying to say they're low carbon, but they're still going to be like a 4 or 5, tons of CO2 issued per tons of material produced. Okay. So they're still going to be there. Okay. So this is something that everybody in the industry is working on, is looking at. Okay. But what they're looking is, how can I make my big open furnaces, okay, less carbon emitter? Okay. We're completely changing the discussion because we own a patented process that's based on an enclosed reactor. Okay. And that's one of the massive advantage that we have. And we feel very comfortable about developing it. And now was the time really to start, pushing more that information out there so that people will read on it. I think the same thing will happen as what we did in fume silica, where we got approached by one of the biggest players that wanted to see what we're doing, because these multinational corporations, okay, are part of the footstep of saying we have to reach zero carbon emission by 2050. And people are scratching their head how they're going to reach that goal. So what we're basically saying that the QRR technologies and the fume silica technologies for the other side are part of the solution. Okay.
Or not part of the solution, but it's
well, they are, yes, but I'm sort of a bit humble a bit in the sense, like, it's like, how can I say this? It's part of the solution. It will become the solution. All right. Let's be realistic.
they're aiming for 2050. You're there right now.
We are in the process of being there right now. Yeah. We have a pathways, okay, that we're implementing at the same time as we're developing our commercial capacity to produce high purity silicone in one step. So now is the right time to talk about it. Yes, we are there now, but we can then have semantic argument. Are you really doing it at this specific moment? No, but we have the pathway to do it, and we're gonna get there.
And you said earlier that this is a major problem for manufacturers, but then I made a note here. It's also a problem for their clients.
Yeah, right? Well, but it's
because those clients want to be as clean and zero carbon as possible. So you're actually impacting two parts of the supply chain. So don't you get two kicks at the can, where maybe the manufacturer might say, we're mitigating, we're okay, but you got the client saying, well, over here HPQ Silicon is at zero, and we'll talk more about the calculations for actually making money from it. But doesn't that put aren't you creating additional pressure in the industry, where the end users themselves, the big end users themselves, are going to say, HPQ's at zero, buddy. George Calm Silicon, I don't care if you're at 4 or 5.
It's going to be the same thing as happened with the fume silicas. They're going to start looking and questioning. We know by our discussion, because there's not that many players in our industry. Okay, there's probably 5, 6 outside of China. They know who we are, and even the players in China know who we are. So this is why I have to be cautious about when I start discussing something specific, because I know it's going to be followed through. Now, does that mean immediately there's going to be a competitor come and say, oh, we're going to buy out your technology because it's there? No, that wouldn't be realistic. But what's going to happen is we're going to be more and more and more radars of people doing it. And we're following our business plan. There's nothing different out of this. We've basically stated a position, which is the QRR technologies will allow us to cherry pick the silicone markets we want to go after, because we're much more scalable. And so we can go after the truly high value silicone. And that's a message I want people to pass. Yes, there's a big market for 2N material, and we'll be happy to develop it in partnership or in licensing agreement with other people. But we want to go after where value added to our product allows us to get, maybe 4 times, 5 times, 10 times more for our end product that we're going to be doing. And we can do that with the QRR technology. Now, I've always said that silicone is a sandwich material. Okay. It is used in the sandwich. And I always stated, as we move forward, ESG standard or carbon footprint plays into this. Now, if we can put in that sandwich our zero or carbon negative material, then everybody benefits from it in the entire value chain. So we can probably ask for a premium for our material, or we can end up having exclusive deal if we're developing it. So there's so many marketing options for us to develop this, and that's going to play around into how we finance the commercial stage of moving forward.
So is that, I was asking myself, I was thinking to myself, why now? Is there a strategy to why you're announcing this now? Is this part of preparing the market because you know how close you're coming? You want to, this is the right time to strategically announce this massive benefit, this massive advantage over other current manufacturers?
There's two parts of this. Okay, the fact that our QRR reactors and the enclosed reactor was going to produce only carbon gas coming out, which makes it easy for carbon segregation, was one thing. And also, we've been looking, you know, we're always looking how we can improve the processes. And one of the big things I've been bothering, basically pestering PyroGenesis for many years, is carbon. Okay, in the manufacturing of silicone is one of the biggest costs of making it. So the fact that we're already cutting down our feedstock by 25% already gives us a massive competitive advantage over our competitors. Now, if somehow not only do we basically capture the carbon coming out, but if we can figure a way to reconverted the carbon gas into a solid carbon that can be used in the silicone process, then we're adding circularity into our process. And that's really the key of where we are. But for us to be able to get R&D financing from government, okay, we needed the QRR technology, the pilot plant, to reach a TRL level, which is, you know, almost commercial. And this is where we are. All right. So we're just talking about this part of it. We're not going to the government and says, okay, we're going to do zero. If we were to come earlier to the government or those people that want to finance us, okay, they would have been too many technical hurdle for us to meet. We would first need to meet the technical order of the QRR can work. Okay. And then we could say the second one is getting the carbon done. Now we got the first one. You know, we've reached, I would dare to say, 75 to 80% of the critical milestone needed, and the last percentage is going to be done very soon. So I feel very comfortable where we are, that technology, because I understand where we're going, how it's moving. We're going in the right direction for this. You know, I've been telling this many times, and I don't think the market has really keyed on to this. It's the fact that the scaling up from the Gen 2 to the Gen 3 to 2,500% scaling up, okay, was the big risk. Okay, we've gone through this. We're now working at tweaking, improving, developing, you know, just improving the system toward the plan of how we're going to build this at commercial scale. But the next scaling up are following standard processes in the industry, so it's not, you know, there's not going to be as many unknown as there are now. There's going to be unknown, but you know, when you start the scaling that we just did to 2,500%, it's 100% unknown. Now it's not the same thing. So now is the right time to tell the industry, okay, oh, last week we told you we could do 3N in one step, and we're basically going to be able to cut down our feedstock by 25%. You know, our raw material, only use 4.5 tons of raw material versus 6. Okay, and now we're going to do it zero carbon. Now, when I look at the information that is out there, okay, the number one question that says that the industry has, how are we going to meet the million ton of capacity, production capacity demand over the next years? First question that comes out, where are we going to find the raw material, the 6 tons of raw material? Because that's very complicated and requires a big plant. Second issue is, how are we going to deal with the carbon issue? So I'm addressing those two issues. Plus, because of the way the rules are of calculating carbon issuance credit, if we, like our competitors, use an organic carbon, we end up getting a negative carbon footprint, which is also something that's valuable.
Not just valuable, that just doesn't that just turn the economics on its head now, where Now, if I'm an end user customer and I look at the status quo silicon metal manufacturer, I say, not only are you not zero carbon,
Mhm.
HPQ is at zero carbon and potentially negative
Yes,
because your
but
ability, and you said
Mhm.
here, will also incorporate a carbon recycling step.
Mhm. That's what I
And
mentioned.
this innovative approach enables carbon neutral silicon metal production and holds the potential for generating carbon credits. You did some math in the press release.
Mhm.
Why'd you do that? You know, let's elaborate on those calculations and of economic inputs and why you calculated them, which I'm presuming is for the industry itself, not to try and do it. You're just kind of doing it for them. But I want to ask you, you know, why the calculations? Why was that important to have in there?
Well, I did it for many reasons. Okay, one of them is there's always doubting Thomas is why are we paying so much for an IP? Why are we paying for this technology? Why do you worry? Why do you bother about this? You should be just selling your silicone right now to the market. Blah 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 blah. You know that those are type of questions that I do get. And one of the business plan strategies we're doing is we're looking at higher value added product. One of the things it's higher value. Now, when we're going to do, and some of the questions, legitimate questions, because how are you guys going to finance building the first plant? Although, you know, we've gone through this many times. All right. You know, it's not going to cost us $1 billion to build it. We're going to be in the low 40 to $50 million to build a first operating plant with 2 reactors in parallel. Now, the idea was to start giving an idea to how much less our cost is going to be versus our competitors and how that affects the system. Now, I didn't want to get into the debate about the carbon credit and, you know, those issues and how you validate, because, you know, somebody could argue with those issues. Okay. Although I'm pretty sure our math is very straightforward. It's not very complicated. We took a study that was prepared for the VAP by the only Canadian manufacturer of silicon metal in Canada. We took their numbers of 4.12. We came up exactly how they figure out the math, how much their organic and non-organic fossil-based carbon played into it. And we just said, okay, we take those numbers and we add our capacity to do 95% carbon recycling because, you know, we can't assume 100%. And this is how we got a 2-ton -2 carbon footprint. And then we went back and we went to the numbers that we had prepared for ourselves based on our 4.5 tons of raw material, which by default, we had a lower carbon footprint to start off with. I think ours was around 3 something versus 4.12. So of course our carbon credit is going to be smaller because we produce less carbon into it, but still. So the idea was showing those numbers is to demonstrate that there is financial viability on this over the lifetime of the plant. And it's going to give us an additional competitive advantage. This is a tax, okay, that people will have to pay in Canada, okay? People will have to pay in Europe. Maybe they won't have to pay it in the US, but depending if the material is sold in California, yes, it will have to be paid. But the carbon footprint will play into the overall cost. So I just wanted to demonstrate that, you know, we didn't thumbsuck the numbers out of there. We can justify why we decided to pay so much for that patent because the numbers, remember, the numbers I'm showing, okay, is per reactor. So it's for one 2,500 ton reactor over its 25 years life cycle. So if we build 50 of those, it plays into it.
And you're talking millions, and for Quebec-based operation, 4 to 6.5 million. For the rest of Canada, 5.1 to 8.5 million. And for European-based, you're talking about 13 to 21 million dollars. These are some massive numbers per reactor.
Per reactor, per 2,500 tons.
Now I see why you put those in the press release, because you're spoon feeding. Essentially, what you're doing is you're spoon feeding.
Yes, but
the industry.
Also because I know the rules of disclosure. You know, we put what 15 sources to explain how it came up to these numbers. So it's not, you know, Bernard sitting behind his desk. Oh, let's come up with these numbers. No, this is actually, you know, because that's sort of interesting.
Maybe ChatGPT doing the numbers for you.
No, ChatGPT. The funny thing about ChatGPT, if you ask him about numbers, it's that we're not reliable. We're down to 2021. So actually, ChatGPT to do that type of research isn't very good. Google's actually better, but that's the concept. But this being said, it's the idea of, there's serious. We have been looking at this seriously, and we're advancing them seriously because we know it's going to give value. We are executing on our business plan. All right. And since we finally got the QRR working, it is actually moving forward. We're executing on it. And we feel very comfortable that we are building a very strong business case for what we're doing. And there's going to be more add-on to what we're doing that we're going to be starting to discuss and announce and move forward. And this is going to play in everything else, in everything we do. I think I just saw a study yesterday where the carbon footprint of making the battery material, in an EV car is at 9 tons of CO2 per tons of battery material. Okay. So although it won't cut it a lot, it'll cut it a little bit. If they use as feedstock as a material that was started with our silicone into it.
What's your sense or expectation? What's your sense for the potential reaction that you might be expecting out of the industry, both on the net zero and on the net present value of the carbon tax savings for each reactor over a 25-year period?
I think
how would you expect them to react? And this more for people at home to understand the magnitude of what you're announcing here.
I think they're going to be. It's part of the industry. There's going to be a bit of a cautious approach. There's really different philosophy of different companies. Okay, there are some of those companies that are going to say, okay, it might be interesting to start to figure a way if we can, get within what HPQ does and maybe start participating or start getting licenses into this. And there's going to be some people that are going to be in denial. It's just the way it is. You remember, the guys that made it on top of these companies are guys that know how these open arc furnaces work and know how to make it. Okay, that's just the way the industry is. That is how innovation comes in. Okay, it was just funny. I was listening today. If you think about computer, IBM was the computer king, right? If you remember about that?
Of course.
Well, I was listening this morning, I was walking, and we were talking, IBM is doing another acquisition because they're the only company that can do acquisition in the computer field because nobody's really worried about competition about them. So they were the big guy. Okay. They are no longer the big guy.
Yeah. Everyone had an
they
IBM
were replaced
supercomputer
by companies that started mom and pop. Okay. They were replaced by companies that at the beginning, we're not even as advanced as what HPQ is right now. And this is why I'm just giving this comprehension.
Apple, Dell, Hewlett Packard.
Name them. And they brought about a change. Now, there is a demand in the world, for that type of innovation to transfer from the world of the computers, to go to the industry to redo the industrial process to make them greener. All right. I didn't set out to do this, but by default, that's exactly what we're doing. And we have 3 verticalities where we're doing this. First one is our green silicone initiative, which is massive market, our fume silica initiative. And what we're going to be talking very soon is about our green hydrogen initiative. Okay. And there's a reason also why we decided to say from this moment on, we will be branded this material Silicium X, because it's going to be branded, because people are going to say, we want that product within that area. So I think that what may happen, and I do say the word may, is that the end buyers, are going to go around the traditional manufacturers to try to want to work with us. But this will not happen overnight. Okay. But we are on the right trajectory to reach that goal. So if you want to invest in a green tech company, HPQ is a great vehicle. If you're an investor in HPQ and don't believe in green technology, those issues, then I wonder what you're doing here. I'm just sorry, I'm just confused. But that's that's just the way the markets are.
Does this signal the beginning of your sales and marketing cycle now? Not that you're going to make a sale tomorrow, but it seems like now there's enough meat on the bone to start doing pre-marketing, pre-sales. And that's just my gut instinct as a business guy. I may be totally wrong. That's why I'm asking you. But it seems to me that this seems like the time now to start doing that, to start reaching out to whoever it is you want to reach out to and start marketing this potential product. So 2 years ago, what was 2 years ago when Tesla came out with their Hypertruck or whatever they call it, I can't remember the name, but the one that looks like a futuristic truck, and they started taking down payments and said, hey, give us a $20,000 down payment, and when we're ready, we're not sure exactly when we're going to be ready, 2-3 years, but you'll be in line and you'll be able to get one of these. Are you almost at that point, Bernard, where you can look you can go to the industry and say, give us a deposit, and when the reactors are ready, we're going to start lining you up based on deposits? And is it that strong of an offering yet?
I think in the next 12 months, okay, we will be in a position to present such multiple offerings that there will be some people willing to do this. Now, I'm not, and when I say the next 12 months, that doesn't mean we're not going to continue to create great news and great understanding and great excitement. Okay, I think everybody has been feeling the effect of whatever you call it that's going on. But Montreal had the worst air quality in the world for a few days, and now basically, the smoke from our fires is hitting Europe. So more and more of these people are going to be conscious. When is that going to translate into an insane feeling on the market for every company that's doing this? I don't know. I can't really say this, but the reality is that HPQ in that part of green engineering for silicone and silica-based initiative, we're at the forefront of it.
And you just took a shot over the bow of the entire silicon metal manufacturing industry to say that we're here, right? This is a real shot over the bow, I think. No,
that isn't my goal. My goal is to
but that's the inference.
Yeah, that's the inference. My goal is to say what we're developing is really unique, and it's more and more people are going to be curious about how unique it is.
Yeah, because when we first started out the messaging, it was to reduce carbon emissions, to reduce energy usage, to reduce costs.
We never mentioned reduce carbon. We never mentioned reduce. We always said green, okay, but we never mentioned reducing carbon. We basically said less material, less. It's been a goal of mine. The guys at Pyro will say I've been sort of bugging them for me to deliver this patent because I always knew there was that possibility for it. And
that was a great message, but now it just seems like you've thrown the gauntlet down. Your title says we're going to usher in zero CO2 emissions for silicon metal manufacturing. That's going to send shockwaves throughout the industry all over the world.
Yeah, but it is. I better check my computer again. There's going to be more Chinese spies looking at trying to get in my computer. That is for sure. That is for sure. But we're ready for that. We understand that concept. So
when we started this interview off air, we gave our pleasantries and our hellos and talked about this a little bit. You said I've got the Steve Jobs look going on with the black T-shirt. Not that I intended up at the but again, you're wearing the anti-CEO shirt at the end of the day. Fun, you got flamingos on there. What's the message? Because we've talked about this sometimes at Christmas, and now, what's the message in the shirt you're wearing?
Well, it's a way for me to honor the memory of my son who passed away in 2017. He always liked, vibrant thing. He wasn't one that was like for the boring statu quo. And for me to wearing these shirts and these interviews with you, it's just, I think it's a way for me to honor his memory. People try to read too much into it, but that's sometimes just what it is. And that's really what it is in this case, because, you know, passed away 6 years ago now. Time is moving very, very fast.
And it's not only a great way to honor him and Sebastian, by the way, for people who don't know his name, but it's also, I give you credit, Bernard. It's an indication of the persistence and the determination, because that's obviously for anybody that's a parent out there, that's a ground shaking moment. And you were still able to, you know, move this company forward and look to where you brought it to, despite having to overcome that. So I just think it's a great, memory. I think it's a great tribute to his memory, and we look forward to you wearing, you know, more of these kind of shirts in the future, my friend.
Thank you.
Last word to you, Bernard. Last word to you. How you feeling? You got a big smile on your face. I know you're trying to be humble. You actually said that earlier, but you know, what's the last big send-off message to shareholders that you want them, you know, how you want them to feel as a result of this news?
We are moving forward. We are reaching our milestones. You know, I think people should sometimes look at the big picture. Don't focus on the small issues. That's the one thing I've learned over the years. And the big picture is that we are developing a game-changing, I know the AMF doesn't like when I use that word, but you know, basically we are developing a unique modular system that's going to be perfectly suited for a business plan, which is attacking high value markets and getting ready to get there. And we're focusing and we're advancing in that direction.
Well, Bernard, this is yet another milestone of you not talking the talk, but you're walking the walk. Congratulations to you, the team, the PyroGenesis team, everybody, man. I think I speak on behalf of, again, 98% of HPQ shareholders. Not including
that's about the vote I get. That's about the vote I get, you know, 98, 99%.
Not including the ones who want to constantly dog you online. But like I said, you know, the biggest, best CEOs in the world have their critics. So that's fine. But I got to tell you, I think I speak on behalf of the overall majority that say this is an amazing milestone, and keep it going, my friend.
Thank you.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Bernard Tourillon, CEO of HPQ Silicon, trades in Canada, HPQ. For our friends in the US, under HPQFF. For those new to the story, because you've seen this amazing headline and you want to know more about the company, get the company's profile page on Agoracom, where we've got layman overview about this, because these are obviously very complex, complicated things that are going on. So we're getting good layman's terms in there, and then hop over the HPQ Silicon website to your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.